Welcome viewers, welcome to the second lecture on classification of viruses. As we have studied in our first lecture on classification that virus classification remains in a very unsatisfactory stage as compared to the classification schemes for other cellular organisms. The reason behind is that the origin of virus emergence is not perfectly known. So, the viruses remained unclassified for about 60 years of their discovery. Then people started classifying them on the basis of the diseases they caused. Secondly, they were also classified on the basis of the hosts that they are infecting. Say for example, we have already discussed that they were classified into three groups that infect bacteria, that infect plant cells, or that infect animal cells. Then there was emergence of electron microscopy in the year 1960. That actually changed the entire scenario of classification of viruses. When people were able to see the viruses under the electron microscope, then they thought of classifying them on the basis of their morphology. On the basis of the morphology, they were classified as having helical symmetry or having cubical symmetry or having icosahedral symmetry, or they were called as having complex symmetry bearing viruses. These preliminary methods of classification of viruses was okay, but it was not enough to put them into categories that it can be used as references to compare the various viruses. Then in the year 1962, we have seen that Andrei Lwoff, Robert Horn and Paul Tournier developed a comprehensive scheme for virus classification. This classification was good because it was based on linear hierarchical system. It consists of phylum, class, order, family, subfamily, genus, species, strain, type. This classification was approved by the Provisional Committee on Nomenclature of Viruses of International Association of Microbiological Societies. Here, for the first time, viruses were grouped on their own properties rather than the properties of the cells or organisms they infect. Now let us discuss about the criteria on which this classification scheme was based. So basically, the classification scheme was based on four criteria. The first criteria was chemical and physical characters of viruses like the nucleic acid of the virus. Some viruses do have RNA in their genomes and some have DNA in their genomes. Second criteria for classification was symmetry of the capsids. As we all know that three different symmetries of viruses were established. One was helical, second was icosahedral and third was complex. The third criteria for classification of viruses was the presence of lipid envelope. They can be either enveloped viruses or non-enveloped viruses. And the fourth criteria was dimensions of the virion and their capsids. This was dependent on the number of capsomeres that each viruses do have. Later on, two different parameters were also included in the classification system. These two parameters were the type of the disease they caused and the animals and tissues that the viruses were infecting. So if we look into this chart herein, we will see that what are the problems with this classification system. Viruses cannot be classified on the basis of phylum or class. The reason behind, their genome size was extremely small, and secondly, they were very much susceptible to mutations. So these two factors make it difficult to determine their ancestry beyond order. At the moment of classification is really only important from the levels of families down. So members within a virus family are ordered with their genomics, means with their genetic materials. So evolutionary relationships were elucidated by the analysis of nucleic acid and protein sequence similarities. So, virus genomes were sequenced and their sequences were analyzed and their proteins were estimated. So, here we can see that the phylum was called as Vera and the subphylum comprises of two subphylums. One is Deoxyvira, means DNA viruses, and Ribovira means RNA viruses. From this subphylum we have got Deoxybinala, Deoxyhelica and Deoxycubica. That classification is done on the basis of their morphology. Similarly, with RNA viruses, we find that the two classes, one is called Ribocubica and second was called Ribohelica. Here we couldn't find any Ribobinala, right? Then we have got further classifications and these classifications were done very elaborately. But this classification system couldn't survive the time for a longer duration of time. Then we thought of looking for some other classification systems. Then David Baltimore came with his new classification system of viruses that was solely dependent on the genome of the virus. The most important criteria in this regard is that viruses are unable to translate their genomes. It means they are depending on their hosts to translate their mRNAs. So, the basic thing is that the viruses should be able to produce a functional mRNA, or which we call as a sense mRNA. It means the mRNA that actually undergoes translation. So, depending on this very criteria, we were classifying viruses on the basis of their method of production of mRNA. So, David Baltimore proposed this concept and accordingly he divided viruses into 7 different families and he mentioned those families with Roman numerals as 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. This system provides an opportunity to make inferences and predictions about the fundamental nature of all viruses within a defined group. This was supposed to be the most advantageous point in Baltimore classification. All viruses must generate a positive mRNA from their genomes in order to produce proteins and replicate themselves. This was the key word in Baltimore classification. You can have a look into the Baltimore classification system wherein we can see that class 1 of viruses comprises of double-stranded DNA viruses. Then we have got class 2 viruses which are single-stranded DNA viruses. Then we have got class 3 viruses which comprises of double-stranded RNA viruses. In class 4 we can see they comprises of single-stranded RNA viruses with a positive sense. What does it mean? That this RNA is going to be translated directly. Then we have got class 5 viruses that is also a single-stranded RNA but with a negative sense. It means it has to be converted into a sense mRNA before undergoing translation. Then in the 6th group we have again got a single-stranded RNA but with a positive sense. But there lies a vast difference between class 4 and class 6. As I said that class 4 is also a positive sense RNA bearing virus and class 6 is also a positive sense RNA bearing virus. But the difference is that the class 6 viruses undergo reverse transcription of its genome. It means the RNA is getting converted to a double-stranded DNA and that DNA gets integrated into the host genome. So, this group is called as the retroviruses. This group comprises many important viruses as we will take up later on. Then came the final group or the class 7 viruses, which comprises of double-stranded DNA. This group actually emerged from class 1 viruses. As I said that the class 1 also contains double-stranded DNA, but there is again a difference, as the class 7 viruses are also similar to retroviruses of class 6 because their mRNA that is getting synthesized from the DNA again gets reverse transcribed. So that's why class 7 viruses have emerged out from the class 1 viruses. Now we will take up each of the class 1 to 7 viruses separately. Let's start with class 1 viruses. It comprises of double-stranded DNA. Examples of this kind are adenovirus, herpes virus and pox virus. Important features of this group that all of them contain double-stranded DNA genomes, number 1. Number 2, they usually enter the host nucleus before it is able to replicate. It means the replication of the viral genome takes place inside the nucleus of the host cell. It requires host cell polymerase to replicate the viral genome. But there is an exception, and that exception is a pox virus, which replicates in the cytoplasm and make their own enzymes for nucleic acid replication. So this is the exception wherein we see that pox viruses are synthesizing their own enzymes to replicate their genomes. We can see here that the double-stranded DNA is getting converted to mRNA, then it synthesizes the proteins, right? So next we are discussing about class 2 viruses. Example of this group is parvovirus. Special features of this group: it is a positive sense DNA virus. What are the essential features? It contains viruses that have single-stranded DNA genomes. DNA can be positive or negative sense. They can be either positive or negative. DNA must be converted to a double-stranded form before the synthesis of mRNA. This is very much important that they are entering into the cell as single-stranded DNA, but before they get their genome transcribed, they have to convert that single-stranded DNA into a double-stranded DNA. And eukaryote infecting viruses replicate mostly within the nucleus. They replicate via a rolling circle mode of replication. It has been seen that mostly the viruses of this group are circularly closed, means they are circular DNAs. Their replication occurs in the nucleus, and formation of a negative sense strand serves as a template for positive strand RNA synthesis. Here you can see it, that how the events are occurring, that single-stranded DNA is getting converted to double-stranded DNA. Then we have got its conversion into mRNA. This mRNA actually synthesizes the essential proteins which are needed to carry on the replication process or for the packaging processes, and this is the complete synthesis of the virus. Next we are coming to the class 3 of Baltimore classification viruses. This group comprises of reovirus and Virna viruses. These reoviruses do have double-stranded RNA genomes. Viruses of this type have segmented genomes, means their genomes are broken, and mRNA is only synthesized from one template strand of each segment. As I said that they have got multiple segments and the segments are double-stranded, but only one of the strands of each segment is coding for an mRNA. Then enzymes which are necessary to carry out such processes must be encoded by the virus genome and must be carried into the cell by the virus to initiate the infectious process. Here the replication is monocistronic and includes individual segmented genomes, meaning that each of the gene codes for only one protein. And unlike other viruses that exhibit more complicated translation mechanisms. Here you can see that the double-stranded RNA is there, then it is getting converted into mRNA. As I said, that only one of the strands will be behaving as mRNA, then it codes for the proteins, right? Then the mRNA has to generate its complementary strand, because before packaging, this single-stranded mRNA has to be converted into a double-stranded RNA. Next, we are coming to the class 4 of Baltimore scheme of viruses. It comprises of picornaviruses and togaviruses. Here we can see that it comprises of viruses with single-stranded genomes of the positive sense mRNA, and it can be directly translated. Synthesis of a complementary strand generating a double-stranded RNA intermediate precedes synthesis of mRNA. The positive sense RNA can be directly accessed by the host ribosome to immediately form proteins. This can be divided into two groups which reproduce in the cytoplasm. So here we can see that the viruses are multiplying, or they are replicating in the cytoplasm of the host cell. Viruses with polycistronic mRNA, example is picornavirus and hepatitis A virus. And viruses with complex transcription machinery, example is togavirus, right? So here we can see the mechanism of their replication, that they start their journey with positive sense RNA. This can directly code for proteins, and if it wants to replicate, then it has to synthesize the negative sense RNA. This negative sense RNA will be acting as template for synthesis of positive sense RNA. It means the replication needs conversion of sense RNA to negative sense RNA, but the translation can be done directly. So this is how we can study about the class 4 viruses. Next, we are coming to class 5 viruses, which comprises of orthomyxovirus and rhabdoviruses. This class of viruses contains single-stranded RNA, but the RNA is of negative sense. So here the synthesis of mRNA requires novel virus encoded enzymes. As we all know that the host cells do not have the capability to convert an RNA into RNA. We don't have RNA dependent RNA polymerases in our system. That's why the virus has to carry the enzyme along with it. So generation of new virus genome requires the synthesis of double-stranded RNA intermediate. The positive sense strand is used as a template for the synthesis of the genetic material or for the replication purpose. The antigenome RNA strand actually acts as a template for the production of an mRNA, and hence it is referred to as ambisense viruses. Examples of this class include arenavirus, orthomyxovirus, flavoviridae, rhabdoviridae, etc. Class 5 viruses can again be divided into two groups: viruses that contain non-segmented genomes and viruses that contain segmented genomes. So here you can see that the negative sense RNA virus, how it replicates, it is getting converted into mRNA and then it is synthesizing the viral proteins. And regarding its replication process, the negative sense RNA has to synthesize positive sense RNA followed by resynthesis of minor strand RNA that leads to the complete synthesis of a virus. Next, we will be discussing about the viruses that have segmented genomes. The viruses that have segmented genomes, the first step in replication is transcription of the negative sense RNA genome by the viral coded RNA dependent RNA polymerase. As I said that this enzyme is missing in the host, and this is used to produce monocistronic mRNAs. Then we will see the above monocistronic mRNAs actually serve as templates for the genome replication. Here we will see that replication is occurring in the nucleus. Examples we already said is orthomyxovirus. Next we are coming to class 6 of Baltimore group of classification of viruses. It comprises of retroviruses. Here the genetic material is positive sense RNA, but it forms a DNA intermediate in its life cycle. It contains a positive sense RNA, but it is of diploid in nature. This is the basic peculiarity as compared to other viruses of other groups. It doesn't serve as mRNA, but it acts as a template for reverse transcription. Though the RNA is of sense in nature, ideally the ribosomes of host should bind to the mRNA, but here this is not happening. The RNA is getting reverse transcribed to form positive sense RNA to DNA. Instead of using the RNA as template for proteins, they use DNA to create the template which is spliced into the host genome using integrases. It means the viral genome is converted into DNA, double-stranded DNA, and that DNA gets integrated into the host genome. Here replication commences with the help of host cell polymerases. So replication is carried on by the enzymes of the host. Here you can see the picture of retroviruses, wherein we can see that 2 copies of the RNA are there, right? It is a very unusual feature. We don't find this type of characteristics in any other viruses. We have got the replication mechanism, that the plus stranded RNA is getting converted to single stranded DNA. Now the single stranded DNA is getting converted to double stranded DNA, and this double stranded DNA is acting as a template to generate the mRNA, or it can generate the RNA. So this is how the viruses are executing their transcription and replication machineries. And finally we are coming to the class 7 of Baltimore classification, which comprises of hepatnaviruses. They are double-stranded DNA viruses with RNA intermediate. These viruses are also called as reverse viruses, as have been transferred from class 1 into a new class called 7. Depending on their replication from double-stranded DNA via positive sense single-stranded RNA intermediate, and again back to the double-stranded DNA. That's why they are called as reversive viruses. It represents the inverse of the class 6 replication strategy, in which class 7 has many similarities. This group of viruses also relies on reverse transcription, but unlike retroviruses, this occurs inside the virus particle on maturation. Means during maturation these events are occurring. On infection of a new host, the first event to occur is to repair the gapped genome, followed by transcription. Here the examples are hepatitis B virus, and it has a double-stranded gapped genome that is subsequently filled with covalently closed circle, and that covalently closed circular DNA actually acts as a template for the production of viral mRNAs and subgenomic RNA. Then we can see here that the double-stranded DNA is getting converted to plus-stranded mRNA, and here it is again getting converted to single-stranded RNA. So this thing, that is reconversion of RNA to single-stranded DNA, makes it a reversivirus. So here is the genomic picture of hepatitis B virus. Now we are coming to the strengths and weaknesses of Baltimore classification. Assignment of viruses to a class was based on a fundamental and unchanging feature of a virus. As we all know that here we have classified the viruses on the basis of the genetic material, which is unchangeable. In this regard, this is the major strength of Baltimore classification. Second important strength was that once the viruses are assigned to a class, certain predictions about the molecular processes of nucleic acid synthesis and their transcription and translation mechanisms could be made. It means the members that are existing in a same group are obviously following a similar pathway in their replication processes. So these 2 points actually strengthened the Baltimore classification. But as we all know that every classification has got certain drawbacks. So Baltimore classification also faced certain hindrances, and let's focus on those hindrances. The classification actually brings together the viruses just on the basis of their mode of replication or their ability to generate mRNA molecules. In this classification, we could find that the T2 bacteriophages and the variola virus, that is the causative agent of smallpox, were clubbed together into a single class called class 1 viruses. So if we try to understand that there is a vast difference in the nature of these 2 viruses, but both of them are occupying same platform just because we are classifying them on the basis of generation of their mRNA molecules. And the second drawback was the identification of a positive sense RNA genome is not sufficient to classify the virus unambiguously, since viruses of class 4 and class 6 have similar genome or nucleic acids. So these were the drawbacks of Baltimore classification. In our lecture, we have discussed about the troubles with the previous classification systems. Then we talked about the LHT classification system and the criteria on which LHT classification was done. Then we discussed about the emergence of Baltimore classification of viruses, the basis of the classification, and the different classes of Baltimore classification and their strengths and weaknesses.